Hello everyone, I'm Karla Tipton and this is Family Rewind. Over the past 40 years, I've been researching and collecting the history of my family. It's time for me to share it. During the years between 1989 and 1998, I spoke with my grandma, Edna Romig, about her life and recorded the conversations. Edna Marguerite Tilley came into this world on July 17, 1908. The third child of Charles Wesley Tilley and Sarah Agnes Shingler Tilley, she grew up in a poor Appalachian region of southern Ohio. Her father, grandfather, and the men of her extended family worked the coal mines, a dangerous job that took a heavy toll on the body and lungs. The miners were always at risk for death from cave-ins and poisonous gas in the short term and black lung disease in the long term. The wives and families lived on the edge, scratching out an existence, and if the breadwinner died or couldn't work, they became destitute. Edna was born in Oriton, a mining town in Vinton County, which is currently the least populated county in Ohio. In 2025, only one brick structure remains of a village on a deserted stretch of road that was once Oriton. In its heyday, it had about 500 residents. Such a tight grip did the mining companies have over those living on their lands that in 1955, the owner of the land, where the village stood, ordered its few remaining residents to vacate their homes so the company could sell the property. That was many years after the Tilley family lived there, but illustrates the power companies held over the residents even into the middle years of the 20th century. These coal camps were often named for the geology of the area: Carbondale, Mineral, Oriton, and located far from big cities in the counties of Athens, Jackson, Vinton, and Hocking. The area is characterized by rolling hills, forested landscapes, and deep river valleys. Most families had upwards of a dozen children. Edna's family was no different. Her father, Charles Wesley Tilley, who went by Wes, was born the 31st of March, 1882, in an area called Leo in Lick Township, Jackson County, Ohio. He grew up on a farm owned by his father, Robert Rufus Tilley. Edna's mother, born Sarah Agnes Shingler, was born in Carbondale, Athens County, on the 17th of September, 1884. She grew up on the farm of her father, Thomas Creswell Shingler. Throughout Edna's childhood, the family relocated from town to town following the work, but I'll let her tell the story.
Yeah, we moved from Carbondale, where I went to Carbondale School. We must have moved over to down at Hocking. And that's when Charles was a baby. And I went to the Hocking School, and then we moved up to New Marshville, and I went to New Marshville School. And then from New Marshville School, went to Mineral School. Mineral, Ohio, and the Mineral School, yeah, because they moved all over. And then from New Marshville, we moved down to, must have been down to Richland down there, to that place. No, it couldn't have been. Let's see. Yeah, could have been. Because that's where we lived when Dad and Madge came to Barberton, from there.
The communities in this rugged terrain were made up of farmers who lived off the land and coal miners whose families merely existed in company houses that were little more than shacks. Most of the camps were secluded in coves and hollows along the numerous creeks. Although near to each other, these creeks were separated by steep ridges forming a series of hollows. To reach one camp from another, it was necessary to cross the mountains or go down to the end of one creek and up the next. These hollers may be no wider than a crevice in the mountain into which rows of company shacks have been squeezed between rugged slopes. The camps were huddled along the banks of a creek or strung along railroad tracks or snuggled close to the camp's only road. What they had in common was substandard housing and poor sanitation. Because they were so isolated, if a natural disaster occurred, people were pretty much on their own. Here's what my grandma remembered.
We used to have floods. I remember one time we were in school and it poured the rain down and it rained. And the teacher sent us all home. And the way we went one way, we couldn't go. And the other way was across the little, maybe I told you about, little narrow footboard. And it was up high, and the water had got up so high that it was almost up to that footboard. And I had to cross that to get on the other side. And I got her on there, and waves make me dizzy. That might be what started that. Anyhow, it got so bad, I had to get down and crawl across. I couldn't walk it. And because the water was just coming way up, and I got over on the other side. Boy, that scared me. No, I was by myself. I don't know where Madge and them were. But I know I went across there by myself, and I was scared.
The coal camp was made up of rows of frame houses in the wilderness. The people who lived there depended upon the coal company store, or commissary, for groceries and supplies. The store occupied the biggest building in the camp. The streets were unpaved with no gutters or sidewalks. Chickens, ducks, geese, and other barnyard animals wandered while children played in the dirt. Coal dust was everywhere, grating underfoot and rubbing into their skin. Medical care was hard to come by in the mining camps. But I'll let Grandma explain what it was like when somebody got sick.
I had typhoid fever.
You did?
Yeah, and I was so skinny they had to carry me on a pillow. Oh, I wasn't very old. I think I was about, let's see, there was Nellie and Madge. Now, Nellie didn't have it. Madge had it. I had it. Tom and True both had it. There was 5 of us that had it. And I was so skinny they had to carry me on a pillow. That's how skinny I got. And Nellie, I think the reason Nellie didn't take it is because she was out waiting, carrying stuff around for the rest of us. She wasn't very old, and she had to go get different things, you know. We had to drink buttermilk, and I don't know why. I don't remember why, but I do know we had to drink buttermilk. I guess the doctor told Mom to give us buttermilk, I suppose. But then Nellie would have to go and get the buttermilk.
In 1920, the Tilleys lived in the last house in a row of the Carbondale Coal Company housing called Jerkwater, located between the towns of Mineral and Carbondale in Athens County. The night Edna's sister Bessie was born, it was a cold, icy night, Edna recalled.
Nelvie and I had to go and get the midwife at midnight. She was a neighbor lady who would come over and help out people have babies. Her name was Mrs. Chafin. Bessie had some trouble because the cord caught around her neck. We had to go across the tracks to some people's house named Reynolds to use the phone and call the doctor. When she came out, she was blue.
The new baby was named Bessie because that was Mrs. Chafin's first name, Edna remembered. The Tilley family spent some of their time in the squalid coal camps, but gradually they improved their situation and moved onto a farm in Carbondale in Athens County. Carbondale was a neighborly village where farmers, tradesmen, and miners formed a close-knit community. The Appalachian town was typical of southern Ohio. There were barren stretches of hillside ravaged by strip mining, the earth blighted by coal dust, smoke, and coke oven cinders. The Tilley family grew their own vegetables and owned livestock to provide milk, meat, and eggs, Grandma remembered.
We had cows, too. I used to milk cows all the time. That was my job, milking the cow of the morning, and I'd gather in the eggs and everything, feed the chickens, and at night I'd have to gather in the eggs. Madge milked the cow at night. I milked it in the morning. And then I did all that outside work, and then they did the dishes, and they wondered why in the world I didn't have to do housework. Well, I was doing the work outside. Tell you, we lived on the farm like that, and we raised our own food, a lot of it. You had to then, because there wasn't that much work. So we raised all of our own food. We raised our chickens, and we had the cows. We had our butter and our milk and everything like that. So that helped. And then we raised our gardens. So we were pretty well off that way. Did real good. We had a lot of good times, and we had a lot of hard times, like everybody else.
That's the end of part 1 of the Tilley family saga. I hope you enjoyed it. In the near future, the story continues in part 2. Thank you for listening.